Donnell Rawlings is a longtime stand-up comedian who's going to be headlining at Joe Rogan's Comedy Mothership December 1st through 3rd. Get those tickets while you can at comedymothership.com. Give Donnell a follow on social media at Donnell Rawlings and check out his website, donnellrawlings.com. Donnell, thank you so much for the time. How you doing today?
I don't think that we should start this interview like this. I'm doing fine. The question is, how are you doing?
I am very embarrassed right now because I am 26 minutes late to this conversation, and you were nice enough to give me some of your time, and here I am keeping you waiting this entire time. I am
20 minutes, and then say from my culture, we call that CP time. If you don't know what the acronym is, go to urbandictionary.com and you'll find it out. And it doesn't mean what you think. Obviously, it means Caucasian people time is not the same time as a professional like myself is. And I will listen to your apology, but just like in council culture, I won't accept your apology and we can move forward. I want you to say sorry, but it's not going to mean a damn thing. That's what I want to say.
Well, I'm sorry, and I'm canceled, unfortunately. You know, you're a guy who is willing to take a lot of chances when it comes to your comedy. You and I have spoken previously about this. Gosh, we spoke during the height of cancel culture, but you still refuse to go about things in any way other than the way that you know how to make people laugh. What is the closest somebody has come to getting you to rethink how you're doing something in the name of comedy because they're so upset with how you phrased it?
Not a time, like I will say, I just did a Netflix special and it was one word in particular that I used that I knew that they would probably cut out, but they didn't understand that I was trying to make a point on how we get very sensitive about certain words and don't have that same sensitivity toward the other word. But the word I wanted to use, they was just like, okay, we get all of that, but you can't use it. I won't say what it was. And I realized with that, with whatever rules that people try to give you, like I'm not like just trying to be a habitual line stepper in the words of in the words of Charlie Murphy, RIP. But sometimes I realize, what battle do I want to have? You know what I'm saying? Do I want to pick this little fight, or can I change a little bit and still have a platform for people can hear what I want to say and I can make people laugh the way I want? I also said that I think when we have spoken about this, we were at probably the highest point of cancel culture. And the reason why cancel culture could breathe and it could come to this point is because the media only wanted to focus on a minority, a small percentage. My good friend Dave Chappelle, his special, The Closer, right? If you take 100 people and you say, what do you think about that special, right? You might have 3 people that were upset, 97 people that enjoyed it, but the only focus we give is 3%. Now the shift is coming down is people are getting bored with it. People are telling cancel culture to beat it. If you don't want to be in this line, step aside so I can get my ticket.
Yeah, and oftentimes too, and I can say this because I actually saw him perform that special when you guys were doing shows at Stubbs at the start of COVID, and you were hilarious, and Rogan was hilarious, and Chappelle was obviously hilarious too. How he ended that special was a love letter to the friend that he was talking about.
This is the point. The point that I'm making is that is not the story that's going to get clickbait. That's not the story that they're going to talk about. And then that's why people always say, why are you taking it so personal when people say that your buddy's transphobic and everything? Because I know he's not. I know the human that he is. I don't know him just from working with him. I know him as one of my dearest, closest friends and a brother. So when you speak against that, when you speak against someone's character, and I know it's all false, I got to say something. You know what I mean? That dude doesn't have hate in his body or anything. And what people understand with that story was that in a business where not too many people are accepting to certain things. We are evolving in the way we think. In a business where if you were a transgender comic, you were shunned upon some point. You weren't invited to the table with the real ones or whatever. And for him to put all that aside and say, I respect this man or woman. I don't want to get caught up in that, however you want to be it. I respect him as being a stand-up comic, as somebody that's passionate about business. And that's where he showed the love. And that's where we should show, especially as a comedian. We show the love like this. Man, I don't care what you identify with. I don't care what your pronoun is. I don't care what your adjectives are. What I care about is, are you funny? Are you funny with breasts? Are you funny with a penis? Are you funny with both of them? Are you funny? And that's how a comic gauges a relationship with another comic. I respect you on you standing flat foot on that stage and entertaining this audience and making them laugh. And then, especially the time that we're in right now, Dave said something to me a couple years ago, and it was doing some controversial stuff. He said, Donnell, it is our job as comedians to make the world laugh in some of the most troubling, testing times. Don't take that away from us.
That's right. The stage is one of the last bastions, but people are so easily offended in modern times. Even if cancel culture has kind of gone away, like I still see those sensitivities with my kids who are 9 and 7 right now. I just had this conversation with them at the dinner table the other night because one of them was complaining or whining because one of their friends at school was trash talking them. And I'm like, well, did you whine about it to them? And they're like, well, yeah, kind of. I'm like, well, rather than whine about it, realize that that is actually your friend and you can give it back to them as good or better than they gave it to you to begin with. And until we can start steering people more in that direction, I don't know how much of a chance we have as a culture.
But these kids are so sensitive. My son was having a meltdown the other day because his cousin blocked him.
On Twitter?
And it was on text message.
Oh.
No, wait a minute. He's been blocked on my son, he was like, I'm like, what's wrong? He said, Bryce blocked me. I was like, you've been blocked before? Yeah. He said, but that was on Roblox. He blocked me on a text message, Daddy. Right. And I'm like, you got to get stronger than that. Like, I know I'm old school, but I remember my mom telling me somewhere, if somebody bully you or whatever, she would tell me, you pick up something and you hit them with it. I know that this logic of parenting right now is so old school, but I had an incident where this guy was bullying me, and I know this is wrong. I saw a Coca-Cola bottle. I popped that joint like I was in a movie, and guess what? That dude broke out, and I never, ever had a problem with him again.
That's right. You show some toughness in the moment. But here's the other issue. How old is your son, by the way?
He's 8.
8. Okay, so you're right in the wheelhouse that I am right now.
Yeah.
Our kids, guys, I'm going to sound like an old person here. Our kids have it so much easier than we did. You almost have to seek out challenges for them. You have to find ways to make their lives more difficult than it would be otherwise, because otherwise they're just staying completely soft with things.
But you know what? The same conversation you have now, 40 years from now, when these kids have kids, they're going to say the exact same thing, you know? So I just think it's a timing thing, and it's a era. You know, I will say that as a kid, we were probably more explorative and more adventurous when it came to having fun and doing stuff. Like, if you want to punish a kid now, tell them to go outside and play. They'll have a nervous breakdown. You know what I mean? Or just cut the Wi-Fi off. They'll be like, I'm going to have childhood trauma because of this, Dad. But, you know, we got to give it to them the way we got it.
That's right. But if you can teach them to be somewhat present, to sit there and be willing to engage in conversation or just look around and, let's be honest, kind of be bored at times. Boredom is what begets a lot of creativity. If you can teach them to be okay with being bored, they'll eventually figure it out for themselves.
But I think also, too, is that they have to know what the option is. Some parents, they don't give them any other option. It's a tool for taking care of your kids. It's so easy. I need 30 minutes. Hey, go to YouTube. But I noticed in the case of my son, because he splits his time in LA and Ohio, when he's out in Ohio with me and he's in the backyard, when we're in the woods, we have no other choice. When we're riding down the Mad River on a kayak, I give him other options. There's no way we're going to get away from our kids being raised by phones or iPads. And if we do, then we're curbing the way they learn. It's just, as much as you want to say that's a phone, it's a computer. So they're getting their information from that computer. And also those laptops and they're creating jobs that didn't exist years ago. To say that there is something and you can build a career off of being an influencer, it's a crazy thought for me 20 years ago. But, you know, as things evolve, different skill sets and everything. So you just got to find a nice balance between both.
Yeah, you're right about that. Because to completely demonize technology, it'll have the Sarah Palin effect from however many years ago, where she talks about the only safe birth control is abstinence, and then her 16-year-old daughter ends up getting pregnant. Like if you try and demonize something, inevitably your kids will go the opposite direction of you. So it's about trying to teach it responsibility. It's like with anything else in life that you
Yeah.
teach a level of moderation, and then eventually they're able to make that decision on their own, and hopefully they abide as such. But they're also going to have to learn mistakes along the way too.
Man, you gotta be the only way you know flame is hot is when you first touch it. When I was growing up and I used to be in the back of my dad's cars, they had the cigarette lighters and everything. The only way I was gonna stop playing with that thing until I burnt my tip of my finger. And I was like, oh, that's hot. you know?
That's exactly right. Now,
But
I'm excited that you're coming to Austin to headline at the Comedy Mothership. I've seen about 10 shows there since it opened back in late March, and I have tickets to one of your Saturday shows. Have you gotten to perform there yet for a guest spot
I
or
haven't
anything else?
physically, I haven't,
Okay.
but mentally, and the reason why I say this that Rogan moved out there during the pandemic, right? And he had a blueprint of how to change the format or the structure of Hollywood. It's like, wait a minute, I've been Hollywood. I can create Hollywood wherever I want to go. And that's one thing I always commend Joe Rogan about. As successful as he was as a businessman and everything, that dude is a comedian. I mean, multi-million-dollar deals, but in LA, I would still see him in the belly room. I'll see him in these small clubs. I see him working out. So no matter what you think of his comedy or whatever, oh, I like him more as a podcaster. Well, at least you got options. But I know that he's one of the hardest working guys out there. And when he left California, Hollywood, and had an idea of opening up a club, and the team that he's working with over there, I was like, he's definitely going to bring that energy to that club, like with the best performers, the best space, the best equipment. And the thing that I like about it is that that club isn't just driven off of big names. Even though he has big names, it's driven off of he's created an environment for you to watch comedians struggle, to fail, to work out. And he's made that place a place to be no matter who's on the marquee. It's like this. You want to have a good time, you go to the mothership. So I remember him first talking about what he was going to do, to seeing like the first part of the construction to like it's here, to hearing people talk about it. And I'm excited. I had offers to work at other clubs there in Austin. And I was like, I do have a sense of loyalty to Joe and to what his mission is. So I'm excited to come. And then we did those runs. People saw me do 10 or 15 minutes. So for me to be able to perform for the people that got introduced to me from Stubbs to an extended set, I'm excited about that.
Oh man, that was a riot. What some of what you were doing at Stubbs, all you guys. I mean, I think Michelle Wolf performed that night. It was just a crazy
Yeah.
lineup. It was freezing ass cold too. I don't know if we'll ever sit in such frigid temperatures, but it was worth it for the group that came out there that night, telling jokes,
I'll
making
tell you
laugh.
I'll tell you the power of laughter. Like when we were doing the shows in the cornfield, and Ohio has an issue with rain. It rains a lot, right? And I remember one time we had a show, and this was like we probably had like 500 people, that were socially distanced, that came to the show, and it started raining. And I was like, oh my God, everybody's going to leave. Man, one of the most amazing visuals I ever had was going on stage, right? And looking in the audience and nobody leaving their seat and it's pouring down raining. I mean, like ponchos, like this. I was like, oh man, this is something special. They did not move. I was like, this is incredible, man. And that just goes to show you the power of what we do as comedians and how we make people feel.
Well, yeah, when you consider how things rose up when they did, like people were desperate for truth tellers to come out and to address issues in a way that may be offensive to some, but there's always going to be somebody who's offended by something, but could address things in a way that infuses a level of humor that in a way reunites us once again. And so comedy
You
is
know,
going through this golden era right now, right? As a result of Rogan and Chappelle and so many great comics out there. But with that comes a lot of people who are new to the art form. There are those of us who have been attending comedy shows for decades now. But for those newbies, it's always good to remind them of some of the unwritten rules of attending a show at a comedy club. For you, as somebody who is up on stage, what is something that you need to make sure people understand about coming to a comedy club and watching a show?
first off, you're attached to somebody's either body work or personality. So, of all the things that you know about, you have a certain feel about certain things, but you want to hear what their take is, what their point of view is. That's what comedy is all about. You know what I mean? We're not here to give you answers, but it's like this. This guy's too soon. He's off the chain. I wonder what he thinks about this. The same way, like even on my social media, I used to do this hashtag too soon with Donnell Rawlings. And I would do jokes that people would be like, oh, is it too soon? And my answer to that is a joke could be too soon, but it never could be too soon for funny observation. It is like, what are you seeing opposed to what am I seeing? And guess what? If people didn't want to hear what my point of view was or whatever, they would sit in their house and just talk to themselves in the mirror and get all the answers. But they want to hear what the next person has to say about it. And another thing about cancel culture, you got people like Rogan, you got people like Dave, right? And I kind of see myself going that direction. When your employer is your fans that are loyal to you, that love you, that grew to love you, there's no way you can cancel that guy. And what cancel culture want to do, like I said earlier, they don't care about you saying sorry. They want to hit your pockets. They get excited. Oh, Walmart dropped him. His agency just left him. But when you can't do that and you can't stop somebody's paper, you as a cancel culture, you're powerless. How can you affect me when, for one, me in particular, I don't create a lifestyle for myself from acting. I don't create a lifestyle for myself for getting guest roles and stuff. I don't create a lifestyle for myself of being a little cameo in a movie. I would be like, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order if I relied on that to support me? But what I rely on and thing that's been keeping me going and been able to create a lifestyle for whatever you think it is, it's been that person that says, oh man, he's going to be at the comedy club this weekend. I'm going to go see him. And those, at the end of the day, are the only people that I answer to.
That's a great way to think about that. You are not beholden to a Hollywood studio. You're
No,
not beholden to bosses who are having a virtue signal to let everybody know that they know exactly how they're supposed to think about an issue, even if their actions speak to otherwise. Your bosses are the people who are buying tickets to your shows each and every weekend. And as
yeah,
long as you're still buying those tickets, you're clearly doing something right.
right. I've learned to embrace that and I learned to love it. You know, I've never been one, I never chased the dollar in this business. I never wanted to be famous or any of this. When I first started this, and this might be something that some youngins could listen to or say whatever, he's an old head. Only thing I wanted to do was be good. That was my first thing, to be good. And I realized if you become good at something and then you have some business sensibility, then you'll figure out how to make money off of it. But I never once did I look in the mirror when I was younger talking about, I ain't going to be rich and famous. All I want to do is be the funniest one out. And then that could turn into some coins.
It's important to have confidence when you begin a process like that, but it takes reps to truly get good. Do you remember that moment where you realized that you had gotten good at stand-up?
You know what? That's a very good question, because I've always been good. And I'm not saying in a cocky way. Anybody that knows my history coming out of DC, they would tell you that it was something different about this guy. You got certain talents that you just feel once they get on that platform, it's going to be over. I felt like I was always good in that moment of where I was. At doing it for 2 weeks, I was good. At 6 months, I was good. At 10 years, I was good. At 20 years, I was good. At 30 years, I was good. At 32 years, I was good. But last week, when I was taping my Netflix special, something special happened where I felt that every word I was using wasn't wasted. You know, my timing, the way I engaged the audience. I felt like to that moment, I felt like, oh, this is the different level. I had a different level of confidence. I had enough confidence that I didn't have to always use the pitch of my voice for a laugh. I could sit in the pocket. I felt my timing developing. I felt very boom, boom, boom. Like I told myself, you can get away with your voice, you can get away with your mannerism and everything. I said, but what about if your words are so nice that if this set was a transcript, people would laugh as hard reading it as actually seeing it or hearing it. And it was like, I'm telling you, after 32 years, it was in that moment, it was the last taping of my special. I said, oh man, you are really good at this in a structured way, in a loose way, in everything. I just felt like that this one behind me, my storytelling is going to get better. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to put a set together. Because when I did this special, I shot a special 2 years ago that we shot during the pandemic in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dave was a producer. I had a press day. We were talking about it. It was supposed to come out when Earthquake was doing his special. And 2 weeks before the announcement, Dave calls me and he says, Donnell, I want to shoot your special again. And I'm like, what the hell do you mean? Was it not funny? He's, Donnell, I can put you in any room and you will rip the room. He said, but that does not make it a great special. It makes you a funny guy, but it'll make it a great special. And he said, I've seen you do these jokes better. He said, you did a lot of COVID-related jokes that what you would have dated the special. We trying to make a masterpiece. He said, out of everybody that I'm producing my special, and especially with the connection that I had with Chappelle Show, he said, it's out of that home team series, he said, mine is the most anticipated. And he said, we got to get it right. I went back to the drawing board. I accepted constructive criticism. I'm also talking to somebody that's got 5 specials. They'll probably go down in the history of comedy. And I was like, you know what? Maybe he knows something. Then another thing, I had already got paid. So I was like, hey, let's do it again. Right. So, but I'm glad that I could have went either way with it. I could have been like, you don't know what you're talking about. Drop it. But I listened to him and I told him it was important for me when we were going again. I was like, Dave, listen to me. Every homework assignment you gave me, I took care of it. Everything you said, he didn't tell me what jokes to tell or anything, but Donnell, we do this, do that, and then we have something special. And I think when we shot this a week ago, I really think I got something special in the can. I'm excited for people to see it on that platform. There's some jokes that you probably, as you know, as a touring comic, you got to practice somewhere. But what I'm excited about is that I got a platform that's a global, international platform. And that moment when it comes on, the world gets to see what I bring to the table.
Sounds like you had an out-of-body experience in the middle of the last taping for this special.
I did. And
it was yourself, realizing that you had transcended. You almost had reached a level of mastery with stand-up comedy in that moment.
Man, there's this song that I've really been connected with. It's Nina Simone's song, and I'm feeling good.
Oh yeah,
it's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. I felt like a caterpillar coming out of the cocoon. I felt like this is where I started, and this is where I'm right now. And now it's just time to just blossom and just soar, bro. 32 years, and I still have the same passion, and I still care about this the way I did the first time I ever grabbed a microphone.
That's refreshing to hear. There are 2, Dave Chappelle is obviously one of the great ones. There's 2 other great ones that are behind you right now. Beautiful paintings, Albert Einstein and Bob Marley. What do you dig about Einstein?
I think about Einstein is that he thought outside the box, very thought outside the box. And he was like, I don't know, you don't get to that level of genius without some people consider you being a weirdo. Right. But every picture you see of him, you feel like you see something in his eyes. Like right now, while you're looking at this photo, I am thinking of something that's going to change the world. You know, and I think Marley, he felt he had that same genius but he's like, how do I bring the world together? And that's through my music. How do I tell people it's one love? How do I tell people respect certain things, certain people? And also, what about just living life just to the fullest and being appreciative of the smallest things? So that's why I got both of those. And then it was like buy one, get one free too. So
obviously Marley has so many songs that people know well, but he's got plenty of other songs that aren't as popular that are still awesome too. Like my favorite Bob Marley song is not a chart topper necessarily, but Them Belly Full and We Hungry is where it begins and ends for me with Bob Marley. What's your favorite underrated Bob Marley song?
I don't know if I want to, because maybe I'm a victim of all knowing like all the hits or whatever. But two little birds were sitting at my doorstep.
Yeah.
Don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. And I'm going to tell you, I have friends that have been going, that at points of their lives, going through some very trying times, right? And I did not know how to communicate or try to make them feel better. And I would always sing that song, right? That song, this is my message to you. Yeah, so yep, that's, and oh man, you about to make me go put a spliff up in the air, man, and get some jerk chicken.
Shit, if we were if we were in person, I would light one of those up with you right now. All right, last question, Donnell, because I love Dave Chappelle. Maybe or maybe not maybe best comedian of our lifetime, but he's even more important as a humanitarian than he is a comedian, in my opinion. For you, as somebody who has obviously established himself as also a hilarious comedian, up there in terms of the ranks of comedians in modern times, if there's something that you'd like to be known for other than making people laugh, what would that be?
Being the best father I could be to my son and making sure I did everything to give him a fair shake in life, and I did everything to create everlasting memories. You know what I'm saying? You could not know anything about my legacy as a comic or actor. The most important thing is like, how was he a dad, and how was he in his son's life? That's more important, because if I instill the right things in him, that can continue generation after generation after generation. After a while, people ain't gonna be listening to my comedy, but what I instill in him, that could go on and make him a better person, and make him great, and make people around him great.
Very well said there. He is Donnell Rawlings. Check him out at the Comedy Mothership, December 1st through 3rd. If you wait to the weekend to get the tickets, it's not going to happen. These shows are going to sell out. Go to comedymothership.com right now to snag those tickets. Also, get ready. That new Netflix special is going to be coming out. It's just one of 4 specials that Dave Chappelle has produced so far in 2023. So stay tuned on Netflix for that. And also give him a follow on social media at Donnell Rawlings, and check out his website as well, DonnellRawlings.com. Donnell, thank you so much for the time. Again, my apologies for how late I was.
No, I told you I wasn't going to accept your apology, but you did have a good conversation. Let's just stick it right there, all right? But I want to say, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-bum, bum.
Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Hear more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. Thanks to you for hanging out. For more of the show and to connect on social media, visit booksonpod.com. Talk to you next time on Books on Pod.